Well, hi there. My name is Jerry Bleeker, and I'm a teacher in Prince George, BC. I teach at a school named College Heights Secondary. My assignments are kind of interesting. I teach biology 11 and 12, junior science, and I'm also an information technology teacher. Pretty proud of being a graduate from the UBC Masters of Education Technology program. Little shout out to that program. I graduated way back in 2008. So the purpose of me doing a screencast, essentially doing a blog, is I wanted to talk about what I've been working on really since I left my master's degree surrounding really pursuing where technology was going to go with things. And I've taken the step recently in the past year to flip my classroom. And this is me reflecting back on my flipped classroom, kind of where I'm at, where I see things going, what I'd like to do better. And, you know, you could type this stuff in a blog, but I think it's a little bit more interesting to see a video tour of just what it is that I'm talking about. So I'm at my school's home website here, College Heights Secondary School, and we created a link called eCampusLive. We decided to call it eCampus, or I guess more correctly I should say I decided to call it eCampus because I had created a lot of web-based resources for my class, and as I finished my master's degree, I wanted to take on that flipped classroom and see what that would be like. So it's just sort of me reflecting on that. I'm going to pop into it. A little auto login sequence here. And we have a really great resource here in School District 57 through the Center for Learning Alternatives. They set up Moodle. And Moodle was something that I'd used in my MET program. So I decided to start flipping my classroom and put all my resources into a Moodle site. It's interesting kind of how this has gone and sort of what's developed in my Moodle site. I decided to go with a course calendar, but specifically, I use a Google Calendar, and I use one for each of my classes. I like that a little bit better because that's accessible outside of my eCampus class. I've got a class blog, which is here, and this will take you to ecampusweebly.com. But I really think the front page for this is my reflections and my thoughts. And we're kind of up to introducing screencasting here, which is the kids have done some great work, and I'll speak to that later. But I like Moodle in respects. It's nice and simple website construction. You can pretty up your template as you need to. Put links to things like your Twitter feed, things you'll see here. This is the specific class site. I also have a personal Twitter feed. And any resources that you're interested in looking at, if you want to check them out, you can see the website addresses up here. There's a bit of about me stuff here, weblog. Some of my portfolio work is there too, and my marks are accessible, but only to people with passcodes. If you have thoughts, you can get a hold of me on Twitter, because I'm there all the time, and there is this traditional sort of contact form here. But I wanted to get back to what this was. The reason we called this eCampus Live is I wanted students to have an experience with all the digital resources that I created. Now, what's in this course, I'll be paring this down as I go. I'm going to go to a sample that I think's really refined and representative of what I do. In this course, for each topic, I had created lessons and sort of pooled my resources into Moodle. And Moodle's neat that way. The way I've been using it, I think, has been more of a web container than anything else. And looking at theories on the origin of life, things like that. And going inside of a sample lesson, let's say, for example, chapter 15, where you're talking about evolutionary theory, I had put in my video lecture notes. So this literally goes to my lessons online. And you could basically,
so
this is me speaking to, I'll pause that, speaking to one of my lessons. It's sort of one part of it is like me going through a PowerPoint, but I'm writing over top of it. They're just digital notes. I was using my iPad and I was writing over top of my slideshow, and I was recording the screen session. It's a really neat way to do things. So what I've done is I put in all sorts of things, the YouTube links, really great animations that I want students to go through, animations that I would go through in class. Some of these go to the freebies that McGraw-Hill has online. Others go to Swift files that are just sitting there online that you can just point to. So pretty neat stuff, throwing in little quizzes here and there. I had started to put resources in that kids could use even from home, remotely. And I thought, wouldn't it be great if they could get this information from home? Originally, I didn't have the video lessons, and it was my idea that, well, let's see if we can set this up so the kids could help themselves anytime, 24/7, 365. As I got my digital lessons in place, I was ready to flip the class, and there's hundreds of hours of me yapping on these things. They're all just basically unlisted YouTube videos, is the way was my approach. That's what I wanted to do. And I decided to pool all these resources, me teaching and having digital materials around, available for students to take in outside of class. But then I thought, well, if we flip the class, then this could be eCampus but live, where they could be working, taking in my lecture, and going to things like Idea Central, which is a place that I had put project-based learning ideas. So this is just the PDF of it. And some of the ideas I put here, and then I went to online rubrics, and the students were able to create a project. And these have been very original projects. That's something I'll talk about later, that capture these criteria. So multiple sort of rubric little outcomes and expectations. And this has worked out quite well. That's part of what I want to reflect on. This has been very good. We have a course book that we use all the time. It's relatively new. But the CK12 digital textbook, the PDF, and I'll let that come up in the background there. I'll just take a second to load, is an exceptional book. It's a digital book with videos and little tests and quizzes and things that you can take. It's really good. And when I really champion this in a lot of respects, because you don't have to take that monstrosity of a book that I have home. This is just a digital lightweight version. I'll be posting the Kindle format and the Android format, for example, as well as the PDF. And I'm strongly considering moving towards this, because now that I've recorded all my lessons, my book isn't the super important resource that it once was. It's not the stencil that I have to keep going back to. So there's a great little things that are going to evolve on my site, but my site began sort of as a Moodle repository, and it's moved forward. It's become full of my digital lessons, and it's become full of a digital textbook, and just all sorts of great resources on here. Good site. Moodle makes an excellent repository site. So my philosophy was to start up a project-based learning class. So if you look at, for example, this one here, this is called Monkey Business, where the student sort of plays the role of being John Thomas Scopes, and they have to defend it's sort of a take on it, where they have to defend that they're not teaching evolution in the high schools, and they sort of have to defend against the idea that humans came from monkeys, and they reply to that by saying, no, this is actually what the theory of evolution is. And we've had some incredible projects for this. If you go back to follow our blog, you go to eCampusLive.com, and you go to our blog, and go down a little ways, sort of back through the order, right? Some of the things that have been going on right here, sort of in round 2, there's a podcast of that Scopes trial defense sitting right here. A lot of things have come together. The rubric and the really interesting sort of ideas, trying to get them to think outside the box and pursue these projects in a way that they would like to learn. This, for example, various views of it. One group decided to come at this from a podcast point of view. Other groups decided on their own, totally on their own, that they wanted to do a Google document and share it with me. And I actually replied to it. You can sort of see my replies down the side there. And that was their choice, not mine. turned out to be really a neat experience. And they've been putting this all together from the information they get off the course site. See, the way this works is I have them do about 3 days, sometimes 4, of research, and then they go into project-based mode. So it's done on campus, but they totally have the ability to work at night on either listening to my notes or at night working on their projects. And there's a great transformation going on with these kids as they're going into project-based learning, and they're in a team, and they're having to be accountable to each other and accountable to me, and I have to keep checking up on them and see how they're doing constantly. Believe me, a flipped classroom keeps you very, very busy. So I would say, really right now, what I've been doing has been a lot of work with reference to project-based learning. So I'll go up here and go back to Idea Central, just call up that PDF. And they're great ideas. Battle of the Ideas, where Jean-Baptiste Lamarck and Charles Darwin have a discussion with each other, and they argue their points with one another. We called that Battle of the Ideas. Here's a great one from ourcampus.com. That's actually where I got this, which is where you watch a YouTube video and The Simpsons misrepresents evolution, and based on the theories that you've learned, how is this Simpsons video sort of out to lunch? And then clicking here, bringing up these rubrics. It looks like I have a dead link there, but when we look at the different rubrics we can come up with, I'll just go to the rubrics. Our campus is a really neat offering. It's an online sort of rubric maker. And I'll log in because I've been out for a little while. And I had to make rubrics, so the idea was that I would go to this service, which is it's got premium features, but it's meeting the needs of what I want to do quite well. And I'll go to rubrics that I've made. And if you make rubrics, you can share them. So these here are all the rubrics that I've come up with, arguing about the origin of the Earth here, Battle of the Ideas, Monkey Business. It's neat because you can copy a previous rubric and then just update it. And we're up to talking about the primitive worms. We've completed that. So this is a scenario for where a patient comes in and they're infected with a parasitic worm, and the student has to play the role of Dr. Awesome and find out what's wrong with them and tell me about the infection cycle and how are you going to treat them. Presentation. Neat thing is, once you create these rubrics and you give them information, you created them here and you can share them. So they're publicly available to other people on what's called Our Campus. And what was brilliant was the ability to get the web link directly to these rubrics. Links, things that you can embed. Easiest is just to go right after this one. And I had done that, adding these little links into, let's see if I can get back to it here, adding these links into this PDF file, which I think I'm going to work to simplify, but this is something that I've been working on. So this is really, I'm going to cut myself off here, but if I had to say in a nutshell what's been going on, since I finished my master's, I've been working on not just a Moodle site, but turning it into something that could become sort of the core of a flipped classroom, complete with an e-textbook. I think it finally loaded. Here we go, this neat little one. If you've been to CK12 before, these books are fabulous. I'll just pop out to fishes there, and you can see it's really just all information, ability to jump to figures, things like that. And there's links to videos in here, and it's really great how CK12 keeps these up to date. And these are first-rate looking lessons and books. Mine could probably do a refresh here. Neat thing is, I sign into CK12, and not only the page, but the supplemental links and the YouTube video links, they've been kept up to date, and it's just kind of fabulous. So this very easily doubles for a digital textbook. Some of my colleagues have asked about the content, like, how do you know this content is focused? Well, that's kind of the topic of another sort of, I guess I'd review CK12. But what I'd say is this is a composite book of a couple of books put together. There's a lot going on here, but I really wanted to show you kind of what we've been working on and what sort of my thoughts have been around it. My thoughts around this is that this is wonderful, and this is another way for kids to learn. They really have taken to this. Not every kid thinks this is the greatest thing ever. If students don't like to do projects and really sort of apply themselves and do original thinking, and if they're just not sort of a project-based kid and they're not kind of into that kind of thing, these projects where I present scenarios or they present a scenario, which I think is really neat. The student will present a scenario and say, "Can I try this? Can I try that?" And I say, absolutely, go for it. That's some pretty cool stuff. I really want to see where that goes. Having the rubrics for those projects has been sort of a saving grace because the students know the criteria of what you're going after. So you can be as original as you want, but basically, here's the guidelines, and these are the specific criteria. Make sure you cover all this. And like I say, from podcasts to videos to puppet shows, if you go to the blog and look at some of the projects that have been shared there, you'll see them. And I've even seen students that sort of came in and they were sort of academic, sort of wondering about this, sort of non-academic, and they launched themselves into a project and they're just in on it. They're going, they're expressing themselves, they're being creative. And because I have more time, in class, not pitching the lessons as much, I can really talk to them about their projects and give them great ideas. And I know quite a bit about tech, and that might sound a little, trying to make that sound the way it sounds, but I can really show them if they have problems with a GarageBand, or they're having a problem with their tablet, or how does this work? How does that work? How do I get this to happen? You see, the one thing I haven't talked about, really in any degree of length, is that we have wireless in my school, and it's come a long way. And the beautiful thing about it is we run a public wireless and then a private wireless, sort of for the sort of our internal systems. But on the public wireless, it's really starting to mature, and the students can not only take in all the video content and everything on this page. We overloaded the wireless a little bit, but it's making a real difference because it's all about accessing all these resources. This course is making them much, much better critical thinkers, and they're learning to go out and seek information. And what does that information mean? And I think, the wireless has really made that happen. You see, the wireless was important because this is a bring your own device class. You could call it bring your own technology class. And what have I seen? I have seen all manner of devices. I've seen tablets. I've seen iPods. I don't know why I brought up this tab. I didn't really need it. There we go. I've seen BlackBerry devices. And really, once we get them onto the Wi-Fi, that tech that kid has really fits them pretty well. And the kids talk about the next sort of technology that they would like. Kids and technology is going to be its own topic. But what I can say right now is if they have access with tech, they're making this work. And it's become a really wonderful sort of experience, especially for me, because I'm about 15 years into my career, and it was really time to get going on this. So I'm going to call this reflection number 1 and just sort of cut it off here. But if you get a chance, if you want to follow me on Twitter, cheap plug, you can follow me personally on Twitter at this location. Let me just zoom in on that. Handy thing on a Mac. Okay, that's my Twitter handle, where I sort of my professional face. And you can also find me on, not exactly lurking. I'm not as busy. I think Twitter is where I'm busiest, but you'll also find me on Google Plus and things like that. Okay, well, that's it. Reflection number 1. I'm going to sneak out. Have a good one.